Welcome to the first episode of the Orai show, where we demystify what it means to be a world-class speaker. We seek out the habits, routines, mistakes made, lessons learned, favorite books, inspirations, and more from highly successful speakers around the world. Our first episode turned out to be a massive success because of the guest, William Arruda, who 10x'd our expectations. William Arruda is a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and the world's leading authority on the topic of personal branding. William is the CEO, Chief Encouragement Officer, as he would like to call it, of 360 Reach, and the co-founder of CareerBlast.tv. His products have been used by millions of people across the globe. William, welcome to the show.
Oh, Dennis, I'm thrilled to be here.
So, William, when I look at your education, is it true that you started in electrical engineering and then did a master's in education and then became the pioneer of personal branding?
All of that is true, and no one would believe that I'm an engineer. Yeah.
So, what did you like about electrical engineering and at the same time education?
Well, you know what? I will tell you, actually, one of the reasons I do what I do is because I should never have gone into engineering. I should never have pursued it. I got really bad advice when I was young, and instead of pursuing something that I loved, I pursued the hardest thing I could think of to do, and that was to be an engineer. So I went to engineering school, and it really, even though I was good at math, it was not fulfilling or exciting. So the great news is that being an engineer gave me unbelievable credibility inside organizations when I was able to do what I wanted to do. So I could work in a high-tech company in marketing, and I was the one person in marketing that people in engineering respected because I had an engineering degree, even though I'm not the world's best engineer. So it worked out really well as I moved into marketing and then branding.
Got it. As an engineer myself, who was also good in math, I can understand what you mean. This is what society does. Hey, Danish, you're good in math. You should become an engineer. That's your trajectory. But it really takes some time to understand who we are and then decide where we want to go. So I'm glad you found your personal calling. And I see that around 1997, you decided to start your personal branding journey. What did you do before this point? And what or who influenced you to start your personal branding journey?
By the way, I loved my job. I was working for a company called Lotus, which is owned by IBM. Cool people, amazing products. Sunday night, I would say, yay, I get to go to work tomorrow. It was just the most incredible environment. So I loved what I did, but my favorite part of my job was actually developing my people, helping them to be more successful. And then one day I was writing some report. I went out to my assistant's desk, and on his desk was the cover story from Fast Company, the brand called You by Tom Peters. And it was, I picked it up, I read it, and I put it down and said, I'm going to start the first ever personal branding company. It was as simple as that. It was my two passions, right? I loved branding, I loved developing people, and poof, that was the intersection.
So before you started your company, I heard IBM and Lotus. How did you end up there? Did someone take you under their wing while you were there?
Here's the thing that I tell everyone. This is the most amazing thing. Your network is your most valuable career resource. So I worked at KPMG in consulting, and I worked at other organizations. But one day, my neighbor, I was living in Boston, and my neighbor said, we're selling our apartment. Do you have the condo docs by any chance? And I said, I can find them, and I'll make a copy and I'll send them to you. And we were chatting, and she happened to work at Lotus, and she said, there's an opening at Lotus that you might be interested in. I was like, oh yeah, tell me more. And the next thing you know, I'm working at Lotus, which was my dream job. It was the coolest company to work for. It was a lot of fun. So I think you really need to open up your network and to pay attention. In fact, if I had read that article, right, the brand called You, and just said, oh, that's interesting, and put it down, my life would be so different now. So I think it's really about paying attention, keeping your eyes peeled, and those opportunities come to you.
Power of the network. Would you think of that as one of the pillars of personal branding?
Yeah, I think authentic networking, right? So if you're networking with the goal of doing something for yourself, no. All networking should be about giving value to others. What can I do that can help this person be more successful? How can I use my resources and what I have to help this person achieve their goals? And if that's your point of view, and your mindset in networking, you will forever be the world's best networker. If networking is, what can this person do for me? Or I don't want to spend time with this person because I don't think they have any value for me. That self-centeredness is going to be ineffective, essentially, in being able to build these deep, real, connective relationships with others.
I like that word, authentic networking. Let's put that as pillar number 1 of personal branding. Okay. Would you add two more pillars to that for us and make a house?
So the authenticity piece is absolutely key. That a lot of people think that you succeed because you behave the way someone wants you to be, but being your authentic self is absolutely key. The second pillar is differentiation, right? If what you offer is the same as everybody else who does what you do, no one's going to get excited about you. You become replaceable by anyone else who shares your job title. But when you offer something that's unique and interesting and compelling, you start to stand out from everyone else. So differentiation is the second. And the third is about being relevant and compelling to the people who are making decisions about you, right? You want to make sure that the people that you're looking to influence, right? And it's a very, very, very small subset of the people in the world, that they find you magnetic and interesting and compelling and valuable and visible. So it's really those three things. And if you look at the intersection of that, that is where you'll find your brand.
Perfect. So those who are listening, this is what the pillars of personal branding look like. Authenticity, followed by differentiation. You need to differentiate yourself. And the third one is being relevant and being compelling. Otherwise, people will not look at you. And that is your personal brand. Great. Now that we have those pillars set out, let's look at them as a foundation. What are some things that I or someone else looking to build a personal brand should do on a daily, weekly thing? What are some of those habits that I can develop to build my personal brand?
The biggest mistake people make is they start creating visibility. They start doing branding activities without being clear about what their brand is, right? If you're not clear about who you are, what separates you from everyone else, and what makes you relevant and compelling to the people who are making decisions about you, any effort you make is really going to be just a waste of time. So just be clear about what your brand promise is. Once you have that, then what you want to do is you want to focus on that target audience. Personal branding is not about being famous. It's about being selectively famous. So just the people you need to influence need to know you, and they need to not be able to get away from you. You need to always be visible to them. So what you want to do is be visible, available, and valuable to that community. So you need to ask yourself, what's of interest to them? How can I deliver value to them? What do I have to contribute that can make them more successful? How can I make myself visible in that community? And when you know that, right? So maybe you say that these are people who are really interested in this topic, and the way they like to consume information is by video or in writing, or maybe you want to deliver presentations, which is most of what I do, right? Find the medium that's going to work for that community and the message that you have with your unique point of view, and then be regular about communicating that. And you'll start to become visible because you'll be delivering value all the time.
I actually agree with that point of regularity. I've talked to many influencers out there who tell me, Danish, as soon as you stop publishing on a regular cadence or putting yourself out there, available regularly, you start losing your audience. Is that true? Does the audience require you to be constantly pushing stuff out there?
Yeah. You know, in fact, if you want to see if you have a strong brand, there's an easy test. It's a 3C test: clarity, consistency, and constancy. Are you clear about who you are and who you're not, right? So you always being that authentic brand. Are you consistent? Are you always saying the same thing so that people know what to expect from you? And constancy is what we're talking about now. It is always being visible to the people who are making decisions about you. You know, we're all too busy. We're not thinking, oh, whatever happened to so-and-so, right? We're just moving through, trying to accomplish everything we need to accomplish. So you need to just always be regular and visible. Even if people don't engage with, let's say you make a video every week on YouTube and you share it. And some weeks people are busy, right? They don't see it, but they know that you've done it, right? You show up in their feed, and it's just a little reminder, here's this person who delivers value, and maybe I'll go back and check this out sometime.
Do you personally have that cadence, a weekly cadence of what you do for publishing stuff out there?
Yeah, you know what? I am committed. So I have a contract with Forbes. I'm a senior contributor, and I have a column there, and my commitment is 5 articles a month. So right off the bat, I do my 5 a month for Forbes. And then every week I do one video on YouTube. Video is my medium. I'm mostly a public speaker, so that's the tool I like to use. So I do one video every week. And then all these other things that I do that turn out to be about one new thing a day for the month. That's kind of what I commit to. And frankly, you know, a lot of people think it's a chore. Oh my gosh, you have to create all this stuff and do all these things. I don't think of it as a chore. I learn when I write a Forbes article and I have to do research and I have to talk to people and put it together. I become so much more knowledgeable about what I'm talking about. And it's my area of expertise, right? And then I feel really great in being able to share that with others. So you need to change the mindset that this is not some kind of chore that you have to do every day, but rather this opportunity to learn, to grow, and to make other people more successful.
I love that. It has to be a mindset. It is hard. Let's not disagree over that. This is a hard thing. It requires work. Not anyone can just build a personal brand and become an influencer out there tomorrow. And you have to be consistent. You might launch a YouTube video this Friday and you get 2 views. That should not dismantle you from making your next video next Friday. Maybe people were busy. It's about showing up, as William mentioned. What is your YouTube channel? We would love to share that with our viewers here today.
So I have multiple YouTube channels. I have a lot of mouths to feed. The one that I would go to now is Career Blast TV. It's a lot of new, really quick 1 or 2 minute pieces of video with some kind of actionable piece of advice. So I think that's a great place. And of course, there's one called William Aruda Reach, which is my original YouTube channel that I started way back when YouTube just started.
Now we're talking about personal branding. Does it require money? Does it require an investment from me? Do I have to set aside some of my monthly salary to build my personal brand?
For most people, the answer is no. If you want, right, there are lots of resources you could hire, people who can help edit articles or video producers who can make sure you have a really good quality video. But you really don't need any of that. All you need is you and a genuine desire to share information. You need your own point of view and you need clarity about who you're communicating to. And it's as simple as that. And the more consistent and regular you are, the more you will start to get noticed and the more you'll start to emerge above the noise, because there's a lot of noise out there, right?
So you heard that. You don't need money to start building your personal brand. If you're a college student watching this, you can build a personal brand. If you are just starting off in your career, you're not a manager, you're just an entry-level position, you can start your brand. You don't need to have the money. Now let's talk about those who want to go one level above and they do have money to invest. What can they invest in to help them grow even further in their personal brand?
I think you want to decide your medium, right? And by the way, this applies to what we were talking about before too. You do need time. You need to invest a little bit of time. So if you're going to spend time, you might as well do it using a tool that's going to be helpful to you, right? Something that's going to be valuable to you and something you like doing. So for me, it's mostly speaking, and that's why I do a lot of videos, of course, plus my Forbes column. So you need to decide what that medium is. And I will tell you, now that we're all in the virtual world, and this is what I love about what you're doing, Dennis, you and your team with Orai, is the way to connect with people on an emotional level is through the richest form of communication possible. And the richest form of communication that we have in the virtual world is video. Words only account for 7% of a communication. The rest is tone of voice, intonation, body language, what's behind you in a shot. All of that makes your communication richer. So I think everyone should invest in getting good at video, because once you're good at it, you're going to love it. And that's the best way to influence other people. And in fact, there are lots of great things about video. Let me tell you 3. 1, if you take some content and you create a video, and you take the same content and you create an article, the video version, if you upload it to YouTube, is 11 times more likely to show up on page 1 of a Google search about you. The second thing is what we were just talking about. Video allows you to deliver a complete communication and connect emotionally with the person you're seeking to influence. Way more powerful than the 26 letters of the alphabet or however many letters there are in your alphabet. The third thing about video that's really powerful is more and more, it is the communications vehicle that people want to consume. We know that YouTube is the second biggest search engine after Google. It goes Google, YouTube, and then way down here, Yahoo and Bing, because people want to consume video information. So getting good, getting your public speaking skills ready, being able to communicate with people. Once you get comfortable with that, you're going to stand out from everybody else because not everybody's using video yet.
11 times more likely to show up. I love that.
Yeah. Well,
I think
part of
that's
that,
one.
Danish, is because Google owns YouTube. So you put things up somehow, it miraculously shows up there on page one. So you know what? That's how it works. You need to work with what you
Yeah,
got.
I think that would be one actionable thing. Anyone listening to this, go ahead after this, just make a YouTube video, start your channel, put your name as your personal brand or whatever you want to call it, and just make a 30-second video of your elevator pitch, who you are. And most likely, when the next time someone Googles you, that video is going to show up and people are more likely to listen to that. So thank you for that tip, William. We talked about video a lot. What are some of the other media out there for people to decide from?
So I always say that there are words, pictures, and moving pictures, right? So words, you can write a blog for your LinkedIn profile, right? 706 million members in LinkedIn. If you have the right members and you use the right hashtags, you will be able to connect with the people you're looking to influence. So that's an easy no-brainer. Then pictures, right? Instagram is great. Infographics. I know, Dennis, you and your team put together an amazing infographic about tips from the world's leading public speakers, which was incredible, right? It's a great way to take content and make it more visually compelling and interesting. And by the way, you connected with all these different people in creating that and have all these new connections. So that's great. And then, of course, moving pictures, as we talked about. What I will say is you want to look at the intersection of what you like to do or are willing to learn to do, hint video, and where your audience exists. And if you look there, that's what you should be communicating. And then the last thing I'll say about this is if you say to yourself, you know what, I'm not ready to start creating content yet, that's okay. Curate content. So find content that you know that would be valuable to your audience and then share it with them. But don't just share it, make it more valuable. Add your point of view. As simple as saying something like, great article by this author, pay close attention to the second paragraph. Or this author talks about 5 things you can do to build your brand. I would add numbers 6 and 7. They've been really helpful to me. When you make that content more valuable, you essentially become an owner of that content that's been created by somebody else.
There you go. If you were sitting here thinking, I want to get started with personal branding, what should I do? That's William's advice. Either start with words, put up a LinkedIn profile, maybe put a Medium blog, maybe have some pictures, infographics. You're curating stuff from out there and putting it all together, or have moving pictures, which is this video kind of thing. Where does audio go, William? I'm hearing podcast is the new thing.
Yeah, sorry. You know what? So I did skip over audio, and audio is really great, and podcasts are huge, right? And we all like to listen to them. I'm a little curious. One of the times people used to listen to podcasts were commuting to work, to and from work. And since fewer of us are commuting to and from work, I'm wondering if that's having an impact on podcasts. But podcasts are a great thing to do because if you can get booked on a podcast, number one, you're being visible to that podcast community entirely. And number two, you're sharing your content in a new way. And what I would also recommend is once you've completed that podcast, that you do a transcript of that interview and then make that visible using the alphabet, right? Using text so that you get one more way of being consistent and constantly visible to the people you want to influence.
That's just what I was thinking. Right after this video, we are going to for sure publish this video. But from the transcript, we're going to highlight some of these action items, these tips that you're telling us. Literally anyone, doesn't require a college degree. Literally anyone can get started by doing some of these things today. So I'm loving these tips, William. Going to outsourcing, it feels like a lot of work, these things you're mentioning. Can I outsource some of these things to someone else, or do I have to do it myself?
So here's the thing, you can't outsource you. You don't want to hire someone to write content for you if it's not in your voice, if it's not the kinds of things that you want to talk about. So you need to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're remaining authentic and you're staying engaged in it. So I outsource editing. I can write an article to be 98% great. And then there's all these little tweaks that will make it better. So I have an editor who goes through every one of my articles and they say, you know what, maybe if we move this sentence here, or this requires an M dash or whatever it is, those are the kinds of things that just make it perfect. So that's a great way to do it, is to take from good to great, being able to make that happen. Publishing. So I create all the content. I create exactly what's going to go in my tweets. I create all of that stuff, but I don't necessarily have the time every day to make sure this is regular. So I have people who can put things in my buffer and make that happen, right? So it's still my content, it's still my ideas, but I have the people who can make that regular, right? Where I might be busy, I'm traveling a lot less these days, obviously, but I might be engaged with client work for a whole day and I don't want to be invisible for that day. So the kinds of things that you can outsource are those, and outsource the things you really don't like, right? So you can outsource an infographic. You come up with the idea and say, hey, let me find a designer who does this. So places like Upwork and Fiverr, there's so many resources out there that are really not very expensive, but they can help you get from where you are to the content being out there, really good quality and being valuable.
There you go. If you are a busy individual, maybe you're an executive, and you think this is not your piece of cake, but you still want to get started, here's some behind the scenes. You can actually outsource some of your personal branding, from editing to publishing to putting infographics together, so much. And you have websites like Upwork, Fiverr that you can actually start today.
I love your compelling people to action, Dennis. That
Exactly.
thrills me. That you're like, people are going to get done with this and they're going to do something. I love that.
Because I've personally listened to so many podcasts, to video interviews, and I'm always the person who's looking for, what do I take away? What is that one sentence that I can actually implement today? And to the audience who's listening to this, I want to give you not just one sentence, but 10 sentences that are actionable you can do today. And I hope you're taking notes from that, everyone else.
Dennis, you're an overachiever. I love it.
Thank you, William. I hope that becomes my personal brand. Moving on to the difference between personal brand to a startup brand. It's something I personally always think of as Orai, as a startup founder. We have a small team of 7, 8 people and a brand that's semi out there in the world. But I think of the Orai's brand as something as a later thought and not today. Whereas in personal branding, I see it as more of a today thing. What's your thought on that? As a startup founder, as a new company founder, do we push the brand of the company at a later point of time once we have figured out product market fit?
I think the actual answer is both. By the way, this is one of my big lessons in life. It's almost never a choice between A and B. It's often AB, or it's C or D or E. And in this case, I think it's AB, it's both. And the reason is, so you're really accomplished, your other 7 colleagues are really accomplished. You have an opportunity individually to connect with others and to build your brand and to get people excited about you and what you're doing. And at the same time, you've built this incredible app. I'm sure everyone out there knows the statistic, but the number one fear in life is public speaking. Right? It's not death. So public speaking is ahead of death and ahead of spiders in the list of fears. So you've come up with an app that helps people become comfortable speaking publicly, right? And when we say that, we're talking about anyone, not people who are going to go on the speaking circuit like me, but people who are just going to give presentations to their colleagues. So that's a really interesting app, right? Until that came along, there was no way to be able to do what you're doing to get people really comfortable, confident, and skilled at public speaking. So I think that brand needs to be built simultaneously. And where the value comes is your brand delivers value to Orai because of how passionate you are about the topic, because of who you are and your accomplishments. And at the same time, Orai, that brand has a lot of value to you because here's this successful app, and we know how hard it is to be successful in the app business, right? There are 8 billion apps out there. I have 1,000 on my phone I don't even use. So you're wildly successful with this app. That delivers brand value to you as somebody who can found and lead an organization. So they kind of give value back and forth. So you want to make sure that you integrate them as much as you can.
So work on them simultaneously. They just happen.
Yeah. And the more association there is between Danish and Orai, right, the more valuable it's going to be for both. You're essentially building both brands simultaneously.
I love that. Never thought of it like that. But looking back in hindsight, I think that is how it feels. It hasn't been one or the other. It's been both simultaneously.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you also brought up the topic of public speaking as one of the biggest fears. You yourself are a highly successful speaker. And given the times, how have you personally adapted your public speaking career?
Well, I will tell you, so I had my entire speaking calendar full for the whole year. And then in March, every single thing started canceling, right? Every couple of weeks and now every single thing is canceled pretty much through. I think the next gig I have is in May, and I don't know if it will even happen. So here's the thing. I've just had to convert everything to virtual. So I had to build home studios. I had to find out what makes a webinar more compelling than something you would do in person. So your listeners, if you want to be good at something right now, be good at delivering presentations virtually, because this is going to go on forever. Work from home, even after COVID, is going to be incredibly prominent, and it's only going to increase as we move forward. So you need to be skilled at being able to get your message across in a medium that is way less compelling than being live in person, right? And you're competing when you're talking online, right, with people who think they can multitask. So they're not sitting in a room looking at you, right, where it's going to be a little odd for you to be checking your mail. They're sitting at home in front of their screen. They don't see you multitasking, and you think that you can multitask. 100% of people in the world think they can multitask. 2% of people in the world can multitask. So you need to become so good at making people engage with you, at building those connections, at delivering something powerful so that they can resist that temptation to multitask, right? And when you do, here's the thing, most people are not focused on this. They're not spending time. How do I show up on Zoom? How do I make sure I'm really compelling? How do I speak in a way where people will listen to me? If you do this, you will stand head and shoulders above everyone else who's really just moved online. They haven't even given it any thought.
Any specific tips as now someone who wants to become a better presenter in the virtual environment? Any action items I can take, like setup or how to be more compelling?
Yeah, so first of all, setup. What you need to do is you need to find your place that is always your go-to place for a studio. So you know that the light is coming at you. You're in the screen. There's something in photography and videography called the rule of thirds, which means that if you have a tic-tac-toe board on your screen, you should be in the center and your eyes should be on the top line of those two lines. So two lines, and make your eyes there. If your audio is great, the lighting is good, you're centered in the screen, you are already 9 million miles ahead of most people. Then you want to make sure that you're not treating this as a regular Zoom meeting, right? Where you're kind of like just sitting back, paying attention. You want to be engaged. You want to think about the people that are on the other side of this screen that you're talking to, and you want to be really engaged with them. When you use slides, you cannot use slides that you would be using. Let's say you're presenting to a client. If you're in the room, they're on this huge screen. People are looking at this either on their phone or on their laptop. So your font has to be 28 point or higher. You should have 15 or fewer words on a slide. You should use images and video. Then you want to make sure that you vary the content every 2 minutes. So data, facts, quotations, infographics, methodologies, and most important, stories. Stories are what are going to get people to engage with you, because stories use both halves of our brain, right? One half of our brain deals with facts and information and formulas. The other half deals with emotions and feelings and colors. And when you tell a story, you're integrating those two halves, and that's what makes stories memorable. So you want to amp up the stories, especially when you're delivering in this medium, because you need to be that much more interesting to keep people's attention.
Hard to summarize all of that, but let me try. The first one you said was to be 9 million miles ahead is just having good lighting in front of you and your eyes like over here, not
Right.
not over here, not over here,
Yeah,
somewhere over here.
we've all seen those videos, right, where you're just so annoyed with where the person is. They look so amateur.
That on itself will get you 9 miles ahead. I like that. And when you're doing presentations, those were some really tactical tips. 28 point or higher font size, change stuff every 2 minutes, embed videos, embed pictures, have stories. Wonderful. I love that. Speaking, we're talking about speaking right now. Is it important for personal branding? How important is it?
Communication in general is the most important skill for anyone who is a professional who wants to be successful. We know that 62% of CEOs say it's their communication skills that got them to the top. So communication is key. Speaking is the most important communication tool you have, because you can deliver a complete communication, because you can connect with people, because you can stand out, because a lot of people aren't putting efforts into being good speakers, or they don't think they need to be, or some people, their career plateaus because they will not move to the next level because it requires that they do a lot of public speaking, right? So if you get comfortable with public speaking and become really good at it, you become promotion worthy. You become the kind of person that they want to move forward because you're able to influence others. And let's face it, we are living in the relationship economy. Relationships are the currency of business. And the way we build relationships is with trust and with connection, right? Especially emotional connection. And the best way to do that is with speaking. So I tell everyone, as young as you can be, get good and get comfortable with speaking, because it will forever be one of those skills that will just like keep your career going right to where you want it to be.
Accelerates your career trajectory, 100%. Makes you promotion worthy, as you said.
Yeah.
So if you want to become a CEO one day, people, listen to William. You need to improve your communication skills. Written is one thing, speaking is the other one. And the best way to improve your speaking skills is by using Orai, the best public speaking app that we're talking about today. Putting speaking on one side, talking about the other side of communication, which is actually your written skills. And they actually come about, let's say, on your LinkedIn profile. So I'm going to ask you something, William, which is, how do I write a compelling LinkedIn bio? Maybe we could even look at my current bio and you can give me some feedback on that.
Well, I have 1,000 things to say about LinkedIn bios. Before they do, though, I just want to reinforce what you said about Orai. Let me tell you what I love about your app. It's customized, right? So public speaking requires a whole bunch of different things. Do we have the right cadence? Do we speak articulately? Do we make lots of ums, ahs as we move forward? And what I love about your app is it helps people identify the areas that they want to improve on, right? So you can just improve in whatever is right for you. So sorry, little advertisement, but I love what you're doing with your app. Okay, and being a public speaker, I want everyone to be a good speaker. LinkedIn, here's the thing that you need to know. Your LinkedIn about, which used to be called summary, is going to be the most read version of your bio. And it's going to be your first impression. When somebody wants to learn about you, they are going to Google you, right? By the way, they may not even go to Google. They might go directly to LinkedIn because they want to learn about you in a professional capacity. But even if they start at Google, your LinkedIn profile is going to show up in one of the top 3 spots. 62% of all the clicks go to the top 3 spots. So people are going to end up at LinkedIn. Here's the issue. Your LinkedIn about, they don't show you when you're checking someone out their entire about. They only show you the first 3 lines. So those first 3 lines have to do a huge amount of work to get someone to click see more to read about you. So your mindset about the about has got to be, I am going to get people gripped with my 3 lines, and that's going to make them want to learn about me. So you need to be really focused about that. This is the biggest mistake people make. They repeat their headline in their about. So I am the manager of marketing communications at XYZ Corporation located in Paris, right? And then they'll say, their about will be, as the marketing communications manager in Paris for company XYZ, I blah, blah, blah. Now you've just wasted space. You already told me that in your headline. The headline is all about relevance. What you want to do is create excitement with those first 3 lines. So that's my big piece of advice. LinkedIn doesn't even tell you that, but it's so important that you get that right.
Love it. You need to grip the person in your first 3 sentences. Let's take a look at mine, and I would love to get some feedback on it. So I'll just search my name. As you said, I think LinkedIn should come up first. Okay, there it is.
There it is.
As you predicted. Now, tell me, any pros and cons about my about?
Yeah, so first of all, by the way, great job with changing your background. So I already know, I don't even have to read a word. I've seen your background and I know what you're about, right? I know that you work at Orai. The background looks perfect. You don't have your head covering some of the stuff, so you really designed it well, which is great. I would change your photo so that you're looking at people. The way we humans connect is we look into the eyes of the people that we're looking to get to know. So it's a great photo, by the way. But for this case, I would just have you facing forward so that people can look into your eye and always smiling. A smile is a universal welcome symbol. So great. So you tell me what you're about, right? Are you a public speaker? Check out Orai. Here's my challenge for you here. This is not about you. It's about Orai. So tell me what makes you great as the founder of Orai. Keep what you have because you have 220 characters. You have enough room, but tell me a little bit about you as well, because you have an Orai page as a company page, but I want to know about you, Dennis. So that part is great. Love the way you start, right? My three superpowers are strategy, storytelling, and sleep. Excellent. And by the way, great alliteration with the SSS. And I'm assuming that you're going to tell me more about that as we move forward. Things I speak about. And yeah, so this is great. This is compelling. It's not what people necessarily expect. So it's going to make them want to know you more. And by talking about the things that you're great at, you're already setting the scene for me that I know that these are the things that you do, but now I want to know more, right? Like
You
how is
do?
the strategy and what kind of storyteller are you? And sleep is a really interesting one, right? There's so much talk about how important sleep is these days. Yet we know that most people, 86% of people don't get enough sleep on a daily basis. So I love that. I think that's great.
Thank you.
And go up a little bit. Let me see what else you have here, Dennis. We'll do a little. Excellent. So here's a really important thing for your people. Notice featured. Look how much real estate that has. This is the opportunity to turn your profile into something that's much more visually interesting. You can put videos, you can put infographics, you can have images, you can have the cover of a white paper you've written. Even if people don't click on this, it's already differentiating your profile from everything else that's out there. So this featured piece, and again, look at how big it is really important. Most people don't use it. And that's the opportunity to build your brand. So if you write an article, if you do a YouTube video, whatever that is, put it here so that people can get a richer experience of you. Excellent. Keep going. Let's check this out, Danish. You might regret that you asked me for some advice. Activity. This shows me that you're engaged at LinkedIn, right? You're doing things, and I'm learning what you're talking about. So excellent. And then here you go into your story about your experience. So great. And then notice you've added some multimedia again to your experience, which everyone should do. It's not just about the words. LinkedIn allows you to add videos and images and infographics and white papers and PDFs to your experience. And of course, to that featured place, which is really important. So nice job, Danish.
Thank you. This was wonderful. This You don't learn this in college, by the way, if you're listening to this. And let me summarize. Make sure you have a background. Make sure you have a smiling picture because it looks like it's warm, inviting. Make the most of your 22 characters over here. Have a nice gripping about that makes people open more. Have some featured stuff. Make sure you're active on LinkedIn. If you're not active, maybe people will think, okay, you're just another person. But if you're posting stuff, being regular, being consistent, it makes them feel like you have something going for you. And put some media here. Don't just have text, but as William says, picture, maybe even moving pictures over here. This is great. Thank you again for this. Again, we're still talking about personal branding. Speaking is just one part. Writing is another part. And LinkedIn profile is something I personally look at when I first hear about someone or when someone emails me. And I'm sure 700 million other people do the same thing.
Yeah, it's your first impression. It's a great news. For a lot of people, that's daunting, but I think it's the best thing in the world. It means you don't have to be visible on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else. If you focus on your LinkedIn profile and make it really authentic and compelling and differentiated, you can tick the box next to I've created a powerful virtual first impression. And that's half of it, right? That first impression is so important. Then it's up to you to keep that great impression that people have received moving forward.
And if I were to put a time commitment on that, literally it would take 15 minutes to do everything William just suggested for building a first great impression on your LinkedIn profile. It's like, why not do it?
Yeah.
So going back to the beginning, William, in 1997, you said you saw that Fast Company article that took you on your personal branding company. Looking back, are there any things you wish you knew when you started your own personal branding journey?
There are a million things. And I'll tell you, I had no intention of being an entrepreneur. I actually loved working in the corporate environment, loved it. I thought I would work there forever, right? Career opportunity, great. And so I think one of the things I learned is be prepared with your brand. So branding, even though it's based on authenticity, there's an aspirational element. Once I made the decision that I was going to start a personal branding company. And I think I didn't do the prep to make that happen. I just, I'd have been successful in my career. I'm going to be successful as an entrepreneur. And I plunked myself into this new category. Nobody even knew what it was when I started in personal branding. And I don't think that I necessarily had the resources to help me. I did not have in my network people who were entrepreneurs, people who were founders, people. And so if I had done that kind of prep, I probably would have moved much more quickly with personal branding. The biggest thing that I learned is pay attention. If when I read that article, I didn't say, oh my God, this is something and I want to be part of it. And I just said, oh, well, that's really interesting, and put it aside and went back to my work and didn't give it the attention it deserved. I didn't reflect on it. I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be doing this. Now, maybe I'd be loving doing whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm doing it, but I couldn't imagine where I am now doing anything other than what I'm doing. But you have to be willing to, we wear blinders, right? And if something doesn't fit in our thinking, like I say, oh, that's an interesting idea, personal branding, but I'm a branding guy at this company. And if I close my blinders, then I would never have jumped and made all of this happen, right? And so I think that we need to be a little bit more self-reflective always. And that's how you learn about your brand, by the way. You ask yourself a lot of questions. What are my values? What are my superpowers? What's my differentiation? What's my purpose? What are my goals? What are my values? All of those things. So if we're all just a little bit more reflective, we will get a lot more clarity about who we are, what we want to do, and how we deliver value. And when we align that with what we do, we're fulfilled and we're energized and we're motivated, and we essentially achieve self-actualization, which is in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's kind of what we're all moving up toward.
You made a great connection. We are here talking about personal branding, but really connecting to your why, your reason of being, right? It's not separate from your personal brand. And if you truly figure out what your personal brand is by what William suggested, taking a step back, self-reflecting, asking yourself who you are, what you love doing, only then do you get to self-actualization. Only then can you be happy and peaceful in your life. So I love that connection with personal branding. And I think one of the times when one can be reflective has been during recessions, which is something we have seen right now. You personally have seen 2 recessions since you started your own personal branding company, 360 Reach. What is the impact of recession on the personal branding market?
I'm glad you said that. A lot of people freak out, right? And we should all freak out. I had a whole book of business go away like that. And everyone, right, we all have to eat and pay our mortgages and whatnot. And you know what? There's something incredible in every single crisis that really screams opportunity. For me, it has been this whole thing. I am on a mission to completely change the learning webinar. Learning webinars are boring, they're banal, they're ineffective. There's everything that is wrong with them. It would take me 7 hours to tell you. And so I would never have thought about this as a new pursuit for me until I was thrown into this place where now everything that I used to do in front of a room of people, which I loved, I'm doing now in front of this screen. And so how do you make this as compelling as an in-person thing? And that's my new mission. So sure, I'm not on the road as much. I'm not earning my speaking fees the way I did before. And I have this whole new opportunity to rethink what personal branding means in this new world, in this new work from home virtual world that is here to stay. And that's a gift, right? So that is a gift for me. I have a little bit of time to work on it, and I have this incredible motivation to sort it out. Like I am going to single-handedly change everything about learning webinars.
Wow. I think this is a great place to wrap up. One of my best parts was the second last question about connecting self-actualization to personal branding. Never heard that before. So thank you for that. This, for me personally, has been very fun. And I hope the same for the audience who's listening to this. So thank you again, William, for taking the time. I highly recommend people to check you out, check out some of your personal brand, the things that are out there that you share, including your book, The Digital You, saying hi to you on Twitter, finding you on LinkedIn, and any parting words, last comments, recommendations for people that you would like to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, so first, Dennis, this was a lot of fun for me. And that, by the way, fun is the most important ingredient for anything like this, is what keeps people engaged. So hopefully people are staying engaged. I certainly was totally engaged throughout this. So thanks for that. The thing that I will say is conformity will be your downfall. When you're willing to be your authentic self and be who you are every day, you're going to be fulfilled. That's how you achieve self actualization, and you're going to deliver greater value to those around you. So, even though everything in life tries to make us conform from a very young age, the most successful people are willing to be who they are every day. And that's what I wish for everybody who's listening to this now.
That's the first pillar, authenticity, who you are. Best way to end this show. And I really appreciate it and appreciate everybody listening to this. You can find everything we talked about, including some of the action items, some of the links we talked about, everything in the show notes. And until next time, thank you for listening.